Ladies, my fellow mommies, we are always so busy, on the go, kids screaming in the back seat, sleeping babies. I have the ultimate hack for you.
Welcome to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast with Krista and Tracy, your go-to girls for health, fitness, and keeping it real in mom life.
If you can't seem to get in a good groove with your nutrition and exercise program, this is for you.
We've coached thousands of women using macros for over 8 years, and I'm well known around here for my 5-day meal prep videos.
What does a macro balanced meal look like?
Hit subscribe to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast and join us for a fun, meaningful journey toward a healthier, happier you.
You got this, Mom.
Welcome to another episode of the Stay Fit Mom Podcast. Season 3 has been all about honoring your health with hope and action. And today I'm joined with a repeat guest, Coach Mariesha. Welcome to the show, Mariesha.
Hi, thank you for having me again. It's a joy to be here.
If you haven't listened to Mariesha's season 1 episode, it's a must listen. It's season 1, episode 5. I'll link it in the show notes. And it's all about Mariesha's 70-pound weight loss transformation. Everybody that has listened had great feedback. I think that's just the coaches in general. Every time they come on, our clients feel seen and connected. And just a pre-warning, I did tell Mariesha this might even be a therapy session just for me today.
I'm here for it.
So on this season, we've had a lot of medical professionals talking about GLP-1s, perimenopause. I've shared personal stories about my dad's health. We have talked to clients that have done the habit-based program. It's just been a really deep season of a lot of great insight. And so today I want to talk about the emotional side of weight loss, hormones, and body image as we age. And when I was putting together this episode, I kept thinking, oh, Mariesha will be perfect for this.
Oh, thank you. It's my favorite topic. It's all I talk about these days. And if we hear anybody talking about like perimenopause or hormones or hormone replacement therapy, I'm just like, ooh, how can I contribute?
Love it. Let's just start with why you came to mind for this episode specifically. At the retreat, I remember there was just not whispering, but just comments made about HRT specifically. And you made the comment, something like, I just have a limited capacity for what I used to be able to do regularly.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? I was just a little confused, immediately humbled afterwards, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what she's talking about. Before I even got our medical expert, nurse practitioner, Katie Kelly, I asked you, Mariesha, I was like, would you come on and talk about it? And you were like, let's get a medical professional on first. So we've done that. We got that out of the way. And now we can just share your story.
Now we can just be anecdotal and talk about the feelings. We've got the science part out of the way. Yes, it's so interesting because it really does feel like there are two parts to the story. Everybody has heard my journey to lose 70 pounds and what a process and what a victory that was. And I just remember being in this place where I'm like, wow, all cylinders are firing. I'm doing all the right things. The weight is coming off. And I finally hit this groove of nutrition, check, working out, check, lifestyle, check, children and family and routines and caring for the house, check, work, check. And then something happened. And it just felt like a very slow process of the tires falling off the car. That's really what happened, because it's never overnight and it's never immediate and you don't really notice it right away. In hindsight, you're like, oh, that's what was going on. That's what was happening. I do remember checking in with my coach and just dealing with a lot of inflammation. The scale wasn't doing what it would normally do with my cycle, which I would follow my cycle very closely and I could relate it exactly to the scale. Oh, I'm having a big spike. I'm ovulating. All right, no big deal. It's going to start the decline once I start my period, and then it will drop, and then we'll get a true number for the scale. That wasn't happening anymore. I was just dealing with a lot more bloat, a lot more inflammation. I just constantly felt like my joints were hurting and just had like puffiness in my eyes, things that I couldn't shift. I just felt, oh, my next cycle, things will shift and I'll feel like I did before. I'll have more clarity. I won't feel so inflamed. And I feel like that was the bellwether for perimenopause, was just the differences I started feeling in my own body that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I kept messaging my coach with every check-in. I just feel so inflamed and I don't know why I can't shift it. And the usual things that I would do to try to get the scale moving or get things happening weren't working. But in fact, the scale started going up, which is really frustrating after you lose 70 pounds. It's not the trajectory that you want to be on. It's very disorienting, especially when you're doing all the right things. I'm working out, I'm eating well, I'm following my numbers, and yet I feel like I'm in a fight with my body over losing weight. And first it was inflammation that wouldn't shift, and then it was just like my body just felt like it was holding on to the weight, and the scale kept going up. And my own capacity for things also started to shift. So there was a very physical response, and I noticed that my cycles were shifting, menstruation was different, but then also my emotional capacity to handle stress was very different. And that shift also started happening. And it's very disorienting. I'm a high capacity person. I take on a lot of stress. I can handle a lot. But then over the course of a year to 2 years, my capacity has shrunk significantly, and my ability to handle stress has shifted rapidly too. And that was another big indicator of I'm not doing well. Something is happening and I don't know why, but I'm not handling stress well. I'm not handling the workload, what I'm used to. My normal seems to have shifted, which again, when you're a high capacity person, is very disorienting because the bar is usually pretty high for what you're able to do and get accomplished. And you plan your life around that, right? You plan your life around, I know I have a history of being able to get all of this done. And so I should be able to do that. And when you can't, or it leaves you feeling massively frazzled or burned out, you go into kind of an existential crisis of who am I anymore?
Yes, I do. Mariesha, I remember there was this one point where you weren't taking on any clients.
Yeah.
And I remember you, for a while, you were like, I need to take time for me right now, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think what you just said in terms of normally a very high capacity person. And so somebody from the outside looking in might look at your life and go, of course you're stressed. Of course you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're running on all cylinders. You have so much going on. This is normal.
Yeah.
But what you just said was like, this isn't my normal, because normally I can handle this all
Right.
and handle it well.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It's totally disorienting. You're like,
Yeah.
I feel like the sick version of me. Like when you have the when you have
Yes.
the flu, or when you have a cold, when you have
Yes.
a cold and you're like, I just can't really do that right now.
Yeah. I love that you use that example because that's exactly what it feels like. And when you're in the onset of perimenopause, you keep thinking that the cold will pass and that you'll get back to normal. This is just a phase. I must just be sick, or mental clarity will come back. I kept thinking it'll come back next cycle. I just need a good hormone reset. I just need a good hormone reset. I need to start my period and then let everything reset and I'll go back to baseline. And that never happened. But evaluating it as we give ourselves a lot of grace when we're sick. We defer a lot of decisions. We defer a lot of things that need to be done because we just know instinctively, I don't have the capacity to do that. And I'm not going to do it well because I'm sick, I'm tired, and I don't have a lot of emotional margin, mental margin to throw at that.
Tasks that used to take just a small margin of your brain capacity now
Right.
takes everything. It takes
Yeah.
everything in your brain capacity to do that one thing.
Yes, yes. And it's not that perimenopause is a sickness, it's a stage of life. But I think so often we think it's going to pass, and it's not. This is the new baseline. This is the new normal, which it took me, I think, about 2 years to get to that point of, oh, nothing is shifting. This is just my new normal. And I have to reestablish a rubric for myself on what my goals are, who I am. It does become very existential, or at least it did for me, who I am, what my capacity is, what my workload is, what my expectations are, what are the rhythms and routines of our family, what are my expectations for myself through the day. And reevaluating all of that, I went through, I think this last year was a series of time in which everything was on the table for reevaluation, everything, because it just felt like we had a whole new baseline to work with, systems that I had in place, workload, expectations, routines, because nothing worked for me anymore. And when systems don't work anymore, and that's part of the frustration when you're in that onset of perimenopause, the things that you had in place don't work anymore. And I had to reevaluate that and figure out, okay, that's a bad system now. It just doesn't serve me anymore. I got to let that go. And it served me for a time, but now I need to reevaluate it. And I think for a high capacity person, that's really hard because oftentimes the new system has to be a lot more full of grace. You're getting a lot less done. And that's really frustrating because you remember how much you were able to do before. And that's just not where we're at anymore, at least for me.
Okay. So you're saying everything is on the table for evaluation. At what point did you start saying, I need to get my lab work done and check this all out? Was this part of you getting everything on the table?
Yes. And part of that was I've always been into hormones because we had so much trouble getting pregnant. So I've always been in the weeds with my hormones. But one of the big tells was that my progesterone that I was supplementing in the last half of my cycle was no longer enough to keep my cycle from starting. So my progesterone was still low. And I was starting to have super short cycles. And so then that was the prompt of, I think we need to do another hormone panel and look at what my levels are like and see what we need to do to make adjustments. And it turns out that several things were happening at that time. So they did a massive hormone panel and discovered that my thyroid was low. So that explains a lot of why my metabolism was shifting and I was gaining weight and not losing it. And that's why the scale felt like such a battle, was that my thyroid decided to go jump off a cliff. My estrogen was really low. And of course, estrogen runs so many systems of a woman's body. And so if that is low, then you are automatically behind the curve. And then progesterone was low. And of course, testosterone was low. So
we forgot to ask, how old are you?
I'm 44. So I'll be 45 in May. And so this was all going on around 42 is when I started to come into this is perimenopause. This is really happening. And so the blood work showed estrogen was almost non-existent, progesterone, all of those, the endocrine system had jumped off a cliff. And I was not getting the support hormonally that I needed to function. I was like, oh, that explains why I feel like hot garbage all the time. So it was very validating, but also gave us something to work with and a new system, a new protocol, new hormone protocol to put in place.
Okay, so you got all these labs done and they have a new treatment plan for you now.
Yep.
How long before you start seeing positive effects?
It was pretty immediate because my deficit was so big.
Okay.
When your estrogen is that low and your thyroid is that low and your progesterone is that low, anything is going to feel like an improvement. And I did. I was like, oh my gosh, I started coming back to life again. And one of the other things that was happening was that I was losing hair, which, I mean, again, it's so part of who we are, right? Was your hair. And so that was another indicator of things going wrong. And once I got on the protocol that they set up, then I started feeling like myself again. It felt like a big change, but change is going to happen incrementally over time as they hone in on what the best protocol is for you. But I was in such a deficit that it was pretty immediate. And I will say progesterone is one of those things because I take it nightly. You feel it immediately. Feel the effects of progesterone immediately. It's like taking a Valium for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So great sleep.
Yeah.
Which again, it changes everything when you can sleep through the night.
And that was the other thing. I was having such dysregulated sleep. It wasn't straight up insomnia, but it was very broken sleep. And then I would wake up at 3 and then not be able to go back to sleep. And so when you're having terrible sleep like that, of course, it's going to affect mood. It's going to affect cravings and how your body responds to food. And I went scorched earth. I've talked about that before in the ninja group. I went scorched earth on my sleep routines to try to get a handle on that, because when you're feeling that terrible, even 1% of change feels better. Even just small incremental change improvement can be life-changing if you're in that much of a deficit. And so I had to change a lot of systems in order to accommodate what my new normal was, which was hot garbage sleep. And so that means you have to be ruthless with your sleep routine. That's the new normal for me. And so that was another facet of it. But progesterone helps for sure.
And then you said 2 years you've been doing this. So in the last 2 years, how often do you get blood work drawn? And then how has your treatment plan shifted in the last 2 years, or is it pretty steady?
No, it has shifted in that we've upped it to the point of I take progesterone daily now. So instead of following my cycle, I take it daily. And I'm on an estrogen patch twice weekly, in addition to thyroid medication. And it's an art and a science, right? Because they're always trying to evaluate what is optimal range for you, not just normal range, what is going to be the best. And the thing about perimenopause is that it's always a moving target. The thyroid medication levels that I was on before suddenly got to be too much, and I had to dial back. So I have to stay engaged with how I feel. And my first question is to myself, where's my sleep at? Where's my nutrition at? Where are my supplements at? Where are my hormones at? And then I start drilling down. Okay, do we need to reassess the thyroid medication? Do we need to reassess where the estrogen is at? But they do an assessment annually. I just ask for it. We do a full panel. And then if I think I need help with something, I just reach out. I've become very proactive with my own care as well. And they're very engaged with the continuity of my care. But you also have to become your own healthcare advocate and get really educated on this stuff too, like what you're looking for and what questions to ask.
For sure. Have you had pushback? Did you have to find a new provider, or have you always had this great provider just because of your history?
Yes, I love our provider is fantastic. They are very engaged with women's health. And I found this clinic because I was so dismissed we were going to Kaiser at the time. I think that's what our insurance covered. And when I had my very first miscarriage, I was so poorly treated and so dismissed. I was calling them very early on in my pregnancy, asking questions like, I'm spotting and cramping. Is that a problem? No, that's normal. And no, it's not. And so that level of dismissive care made me seek out a place that was going to listen to me. And I'm also the type of person that likes to do my own research and come to the clinic with questions. I saw this study and I saw this, and what do you think about this? And can we try this? And that's not always going to be well received, but I found a place that doesn't care that I've looked on Google.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's huge. I just know that since I have been open about my journey with potentially doing HRT, that number one question is, how are you finding a provider that will do this? Because it seems like there are two types of doctors, and one type is extremely against it, and one type is all for it.
Yeah.
And so it's confusing.
A new school, or I like an old school medical provider is usually pretty dismissive of it and a little defensive, like they're offended that you're doing your own research and asking about it. And yeah,
it's just interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting. You feel like you're in a good place now. Tell us more about that. Do you feel like you've gotten your capacity back?
I think one of the big things that I had to learn was how to rest, and that rest was more important than ever. And I had never been in a good routine of rest. And so part of it was dialing back on my obligations, taking on things with more scarcity. So taking on less things so that I knew that I would have the margin to do them, and being okay with that and not filling the rest of that space, because with less things on the calendar, there's a little bit more margin, not filling that with more things. Because I think, again, as somebody who's used to getting a lot done, I look at that and I'm like, oh, what else can we do?
Like, we've got a
Get
free
more-
Saturday.
Yeah,
Fill.
get more things done off that list. And I think learning to value, like maybe I just sit and read for an hour and that's important. Whereas before that felt like a waste of time or maybe a luxury. Like if you have time left over in your day, you've gotten your list done and you have time, okay, go enjoy yourself. But actually making that a priority of no, I need that hour mentally to completely clock out, focus on something that isn't a screen, and just have that time to sit and let my body rest, let my mind rest, and then, in a sense, completely unplug so that when I plug back in to do the next thing, I'm not in a deficit. I'm fully charged. I'm available. I'm not dysregulated. But I think valuing rest has been a very hard thing for me to learn.
We are a lot alike. I think you almost have to put it on the list. You have to say,
Yeah.
read book at 11 a.m., or else the mountain of tasks will overwhelm you. And then what I inevitably end up doing is my mind needs a break. And so what do? I scroll my phone, which doesn't help. It leads to more
More
it's
input.
the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
more input, more stressors on my body.
Yeah.
But if I don't have read at 1 o'clock on the list, that's my go-to. So just being you were saying being vigilant with your sleep, being wait, what's the word you used? Because you used such a good one with the sleep.
Scorched earth. I don't know if
Scorched
that's what.
earth. Yes,
Yeah.
being scorched earth when it
Yeah.
comes to your sleep. It's be scorched earth when it comes to valuing rest. And gosh, I saw somewhere, probably on social media when I was scrolling, just about the Bible tells us to have a Sabbath for a reason. God rested, and for us to just be like, I don't really need that. The God of the universe needed it. You probably do too, Tracy. You probably need a little more of it.
Yeah. I think we're such a productive society and such a productive culture that if we don't feel like we're producing something, it feels wrong.
Especially as a content creator. That's what we do. And if I'm not producing, I feel the loom of darkness.
Right. And then there's the temptation to turn your rest time into content time. Look at me resting. Look. No, that's not what we're doing. You need a hard stop.
I knew this would be a therapy session just for me, Mariesha. Perfect.
Oh my gosh. But yes, I think placing value on rest and making it a practice and being unapologetic about it. I really have had to come to being unapologetic about how my capacity has shifted for myself and for others, because I think others could look at it and be like, wow, you should be able to take on more. And maybe they don't. Sometimes I put a lot more thought into what I think other people think, but really what I think is important. If I'm not placing value on rest, then, I can not do it. I'll come up with a lot of excuses not to do it.
Is there anything else you want to add to your personal story before we dive into some of these questions? I love the synopsis that you gave. I think it's been good.
I think it's a great lead up. It has been a journey. Yeah, it has been a journey and very disorienting after you go through losing 70 pounds. It's very disorienting.
Yeah.
To hit that huge milestone and then feel like it all falls apart, even when you're doing all the right things. And I know so many clients can relate to that because perimenopause just hits you hard and out of nowhere, it seems.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I feel so seen whenever I see the perimenopause reels, because sometimes I am like, am I going crazy? Is this real? Or is this just me? And so I start to feel almost like I'm being, what's the word? Gosh, it's that word. Work brain work. What's the word? Oh,
like
it's
validated?
like where you're,
Validated?
I feel validated, but it's if somebody wants you to feel like you're going crazy.
Oh, gaslit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel gaslit sometimes when I bring it up a little bit, depending on who I'm talking to. This might just be, you have a high stress life. And I'm like, yes, but I used to be able to handle this, no problem.
Different.
Yeah. So let's get into some tangible takeaways for any woman that's listening. I feel like this could be me. or maybe I'm struggling with some of these similar things. What would you say to a woman who feels like she's failing because her body doesn't respond the way that it used to?
I would say it's time for a new rubric in which to evaluate yourself. Yeah, you're failing based off of all the standards that you had before. At least that's how I felt. But that system no longer works. Therefore, that rubric of evaluation no longer works. Is life changing? This is your new normal. So, what does a new evaluation of yourself look like? It's all on the table because I had to determine what is successful. What do workouts look like for me now? Because my body doesn't recover and doesn't thrive with the same CrossFit workouts that I was doing before. And so then that was a whole existential crisis of, okay, what am I doing now that is helpful?
What are you doing now that's helpful?
Walking.
Okay, great.
And part of that was there's a whole stress for me in that I couldn't fit it all in. I couldn't do the work in the house and then run to the gym and do the thing. And that schedule was very stressful for me to maintain because it was always a hustle and very few opportunities for downtime and rest. And I found that I was a lot happier if I just let that go and went for walks.
Yeah.
And that was also a journey of reevaluating myself because I have very often told myself this is not a workout. And in the truest sense, it's not like lifting weights, which is so important, but it's different. But it's giving me what I need right now. And there's a lot of power in a good walk too.
You know what's funny, Mariesha? My whole childhood, my mom just preached that down the hatchet. You just need to walk. And she walked 2 miles every day. That was it. And she was like, Tracy, you have to walk your whole life. You just have to walk. And I remember even as a kid being like, okay, mom. So many things that my mom told me when I was a teenager that I just rolled my eyes about. And I'm like, here I am telling everybody, you just need to walk.
Which is why the Step Bet Challenge was so good. It was stressful in a lot of ways to get in the steps, but it did force me to get out even when I felt like I wasn't up for it. And I loved that. I loved, you need to go outside. You need some vitamin D. You need to feel the sun in your eyes. You need to get the fresh air and move your body. And if that's the biggest thing that you do today, then that's a win. Yeah.
I was thinking some of the things that I don't want to let go of, and I've got to snap out of it because I think I need to change the rubric, Mariesha. But in my mind, I have 6 kids and they're all in all these activities. And anytime I hear we need a volunteer for da 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 da, or we need help with parents doing da da da, Mariesha, I am like, I should be doing this, but I can't do this.
Oh, I know. There's a whole goods. And I had that last year because I've been the class parent for a lot of years. And last year was awful because I was in the thick of perimenopause diagnosis. And I was also trying to be the volunteer, do all the things. And I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm not apologizing for it.
I know. I'm not apologizing.
This is not the season for me. I've done a lot of volunteering. This is not that time. And somebody else can take that baton, and I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to feel shamed about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shame myself for not doing it.
And that's really what it becomes. Nobody else is shaming me. Nobody else.
Nobody else is looking at the go sign up or whatever it is.
Yes.
They're like, where's Tracy's name? I don't see Tracy's name. Interesting. What is she up to? Why isn't she? No one's doing that.
Yeah. But sometimes my internal dialogue can get so negative because I am that voice of you're not doing enough here. You're not doing, and then all of a sudden you just feel like you're failing everywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm not parenting. I am not running a business. I'm not communicating with my husband. Like all of it feels anyway. So the walks do help. I feel like the serotonin gets there.
Yeah. And I would suggest doing a walk without a podcast because it's just more input. Let that be. I use it as a time for prayer. Let that be a time of meditation. Let it be just a time where you're fully present in the moment and not creating more avenues of mental input. So
good tip. Okay. Can you talk about the tension between accepting where you are, but still wanting change?
Oh, and it's so hard, especially when your body is changing and your body composition feels like it's shifting. And this is, for me, that was really difficult because I just lost 70 pounds and everything was going in the wrong direction. And I gained 20 pounds back. And I was like, what is wrong? What is happening? It is so tough. You have to reevaluate everything and ask yourself, is this an old goal or is this a new goal? Is this achievable? Or am I chasing a 30-year-old body but I'm 40 now and I need to reevaluate what's realistic for me in this season? Am I going to be am I going to be super cut in this season of life? If I wanted to, maybe I could, but gosh, that would be so painful. Do you want that? And it's a conversation that you have to have, I think, with clients as they come to you with their goals. Is this what you really want? Because the older you get, especially in perimenopause, the harder it's going to be. And so if you really want that, it's going to be your whole personality.
And that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Women often feel blindsided when their metabolism shifts. How can we support our clients who might be feeling this way?
I think it's facilitating the conversation of honesty. We need to be honest about where you're at and what your needs are. And it's disorienting because, like, in my situation, my metabolism dropped drastically and I needed much fewer calories. But that's hard for clients because we're used to being able to, we have our routines. Again, this goes back to like systems and routines. I have these snacks and I eat these foods and I'm accustomed to this. But what we've grown accustomed to isn't serving us anymore. So everything's on the table. I even went through a phase where I was like, do I need to do keto? I don't even know what my body needs from me anymore. And no, I didn't need to do keto, but I did need to reevaluate how many carbs I was taking in because I stopped doing CrossFit. So I didn't need
Stop doing CrossFit, but kept eating like a CrossFitter. Yeah.
Your needs change and shift and having that conversation, but it requires being honest with yourself.
And it takes, in terms of one-on-one coaching, that's a hard conversation to have with a client because you might not want to hear your coach say to you, we're going to have to dial back the calories because your body's changing. And that's tough to hear, especially when you feel like you might be at a limited capacity and one more thing.
I know. And that's the hard part, that a lot of this coalesces at the same time. And then somebody's taken away your snacks. That's the last thing a woman needs is now you're taking away my little treat.
And sometimes with the fatigue I have felt this year, because I'm so tired, I feel almost like a mouse in search of the cheese. Like I just need to get a little serotonin boost here, to energy boost to get me through the day.
That's going to give me the boost that I need.
Like a drug addict. Yeah. Okay. So how do you help your clients rewrite their goals so they're feeling empowered instead of defeated? Because I want to feel empowered. I don't want to feel like, gosh, this all sounds crappy. So how do I feel empowered going into the new year, Mariesha, and not just so frustrated and down with the new me, whatever that might be?
I think it's simplifying what your goals are. For a lot of my clients, it's not getting a 7 out of 7. It's not green days. It's just let's hit fiber and protein and call it good. See how you feel with that.
But even that, like fiber and protein and call it good, that's a challenge. That's not a
challenge. Or maybe it's just
great. But it's great. Yeah.
I did this for a client today. It was just simplifying. I said, let's get 8 hours of sleep. Let's get in 100 ounces of water. And we're aiming, right? So it's not exact. And hit some protein. And those 3 things will go a long way in helping you feel like you're not hot garbage.
Yeah.
You know? But tucked away in 8 hours of sleep is a solid sleep routine. 8 hours of sleep doesn't just happen out of thin air. So there's a lot of work that has to go into that too. And let's get on the on-ramp to get there. And I found that my on-ramp was a lot longer than I wanted it to be. And that's hard when I was super consistent all the time.
I was thinking too, one thing that I'm getting from this conversation is just a lot of reflection. Like when you said everything's on the table, I've got to reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
That in itself takes a lot of effort because it means that you can't just keep dragging on.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the new year coming, this is perfect. We've got to sit down and we've got to evaluate and take
Yeah.
some notes.
Yeah.
Take some notes on how you're feeling. Take some notes on where your time is going. Take some notes on what you can push off your plate and how you can delegate more. And for me, that's huge. Just where am I now and where do I want to be?
And this
how
is
can I
often,
map myself there?
yeah, this is often a conversation that I would love to have with clients, but I also need the clients to engage in the conversation.
Mhm.
I can see it as a coach. Like you need to tell me what your goals are. You need to tell me we need to update these things.
Yeah.
I can only help you with as much information as you give me. And a lot of it comes back to self-reflection. Like, sit down with yourself. You need to slow down enough to start letting these things sit and then deciding where you want to be. And I think very often we get stuck in our goals from 5 years ago.
Yes.
Because that's what we set for ourselves, but then we change and we don't have the time to sit and reflect. That feels like a luxury, but we're coming into a season of life where that's so important, because where I am at in my 40s is going to determine the longevity for the rest of my life. And what do I want life to look like for myself in my 50s, in my 60s, in my 70s? It all depends on the decisions that I'm making for myself now. And so this is important. And setting these goals is not trivial. Reevaluating the system and the rubric and the dreams that we have for ourselves is not frivolous. It's of the utmost importance. But I need the clients to do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that for them. I need them to give me the feedback. And so as a coach, I'm like, tell me what you're thinking. Is sit with yourself and decide what you want your outcome. What do you see for yourself?
Yes.
Where do you want to be this time next year? Because it all depends on the goals we set now.
And I even love what you said, Mariesha, about we need to look farther out than just 1 year too. What do you want to be in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s? And if the thought of running this hard, there's no way I can do this in my set. I'm so tired. I feel depleted. I'm like, Jesus, take me home before I'm 70 because I'm so exhausted. And so that is telling me I got to take a long look at if I want to live a life that doesn't put me flat on my back. And so
what does thriving look like in this season of life? I feel
Great
like
one.
these last couple of years, I have just felt like I've been surviving and reacting. And that's not how I envision myself. I want to be responding well. I want to be proactive. I want to be thriving. And so what does that look like for me? And then work it backwards.
Love it. And then work it backwards. That's great.
Yeah.
What would you tell a woman who compares herself to her 20 or 30-year-old body?
That's not you anymore, girl.
And then you don't want to be either, right? I don't want to go back there. I don't.
I think in looking backwards and looking in the past, it's very sad in terms of, oh, I wish I could be that. No, I would
Like your best days are behind you. No, girl.
Yeah, no. I really have come into my own this last year in terms of the best is in front of me. And how can I be the best version of my 40-year-old self now? From the food that I'm eating and the clothes that I'm wearing and how I'm presenting myself. No, the best is yet to come. And I wish I could put that in an IV and stick it in my clients and be like, just drink this in. The best is yet to come. It instills so much hope and anticipation. And that's what we thrive on when we're trying to reach our goals.
Love it. Okay, this is shifting a little bit on the emotional side of weight loss. What are some signs that someone is tying their worth to their weight?
When I get check-ins from clients that are really despondent, they've had an all green week, they're doing all the things, or even if it's not an all green week, but they've had so much stress going on, the chaotic schedule, especially around the holidays, but they're like, oh, I'm just trying to make it. They feel like their week is a loss, even though all of these
You're doing all the right things.
You're doing all the right things. and they're just looking at the scale like, oh, it's up. That's when your eyes are on the wrong thing. And this is where the one-on-one coaching really comes in, because then you get the immediate feedback from your coach. No, you're doing all the right things. You've had a chaotic week. You've had massive routine and schedule upheaval, or maybe it's your cycle. There's so many other factors.
Right. Yeah. And and we talk about the scale a lot. We've talked about it on the podcast a lot, but also with our clients a lot. And it can just be so dang frustrating, Mariesha,
Yeah,
when you
for sure.
are doing all the right things
Yeah.
and you've been at it for some time. And then you go to the doctor's office and you step on that scale and you're like, this is so frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that number. And it's the effort and that intentionality, and also just thinking about what would that number be if you didn't do what you, there's that too.
Yeah, exactly. If you totally threw in the towel. I have a client who, she's a teacher, she works in education, she works so hard, and it's been crazy. And she hasn't had green days, but she's stayed engaged. She's tracking. I applaud her. I'm like, you're engaged. You have not thrown in the towel. You're still tracking and not hitting green days, but you're still holding yourself accountable. And that's incredible. And so somebody might be like, it wasn't green, but you're still in the game. You're still
Right. So true. And then I love this question. In coaching, how do you help women build worth that isn't tied to outcomes? What mindset shifts seem to help?
I think this is such an interesting question, because we attach worth to outcomes because we usually attach outcomes to effort, and effort feels very tied to a character component of like discipline, right? When we're measuring outcomes, we do tie it to how disciplined was I? And if the outcome isn't what we expected, then it must be because of me. Like it must be something that I didn't do correctly. And so it's a shift in mindset for that. Sometimes we just don't get the outcome we expect, like me going through the onset of perimenopause, doing all the right things, and the scale is going up. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, my metabolism is shifting, my thyroid is down, my estrogen is low. There are so many things that we don't get to see right away. And you don't want to tie your worth to an outcome. You want to tie it to the effort that you're putting into something. Am I giving it my best? And then if you are, and it's still not working, then that's a conversation to have with your coach about what do we do now? It's not a worth issue.
And I think too, sometimes I get trapped in the thought life of I could always be doing more. There's so many more things, because it's not as simple as checking the boxes. There's always more things that you could be doing for your health, and
more supplements to take.
Right. There's more supplements. There's more sacrifices that you could be doing. There's more. The goalposts just keep moving. And that could be a topic where quit moving the goalposts for yourself. I'm just going to move it a little closer.
Yeah. Especially, and the goalpost then becomes almost unachievable if you think you're going to get your 20-year-old body back. That's not healthy.
Yep. And then last question. If a woman says, I'll be confident when I lose X amount of pounds, how would you reframe that?
Maybe you'll be more confident. Confidence is such an interesting thing, because I know that I feel more confident when I'm leaner, but confidence is, I think, in two parts. It's an internal validation and it's an external validation. It's an internal validation in the sense that I get confident because I know I'm doing the right thing, right? I'm doing all the right things, so I feel good about it. I feel good about myself. And confidence also comes from the external validation of others. Oh, you look so good. Oh, what are you doing? And then that gives you a boost, right? So a woman says, I'll feel more confident if I lose X amount of weight. Maybe you're going to get a lot more external validation with that, but you're not in control of what other people say, or you're not in control of other people's validation of you. What you're in control of is doing the right things and feeling good about yourself and feeling good about the choices that you're making. And so that then boosts your internal confidence, right? In the journey, in the process. And then when you lose whatever the goal is, you can look back and be like, yeah, I built all of this. I did this journey, and that's confidence building. So it's a yes, but it's not easy to say, yes, you'll be more confident.
There's just complexities to it for sure.
Yeah.
I've told this story before, I think. I'm not sure if I've told it on the podcast, but I remember I was looking through photo albums with my mom, and she had this picture of herself in a bikini when she was in her 20s. And she was a knockout. She looked incredible. And she pointed at it. She was like, you know what's funny? I thought I'd needed to lose 5 pounds then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, hate that for you. I hate that you didn't feel like the knockout that you were in that picture. And I think that we can get trapped in that. I'll just feel a little bit better if I'm just a little smaller.
Yeah. It's that sliding goalpost too. Because then you'll get there and be like, what if I lost 10 more?
Exactly.
It never ends.
It never ends. Well, Mariesha, I appreciate your time and this free therapy session that I got myself out of this today. Are there any final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Give yourself permission to sit with the thoughts and the feelings. I think that feels very overwhelming and scary when we're in a transition like this, but do it anyway, because there's so much ahead. There's so much excitement ahead.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Mariesha, and we'll catch you next time.
We appreciate you tuning in to the Stay Fit Mom podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media and head to stayfitmom.com for more resources and tips. You've got this. See you next time.